Okay, as promised, we were gonna do some more videos on the Challenger. So I have the engine out. We failed to videotape that, so we are going to basically show you the teardown. We're gonna do a quickie little video on how to do an old school valve job. I've got most of the equipment here to do it. So we're just gonna get started on pulling the cylinder heads off of the left side of the motor. I already did the right-hand side, and we're gonna reassemble the thing and put it back together and keep on trucking with this project. So, all right, so we're gonna just take the heads off. I got my impact on. We're just basically blast the thing off. You try to do it in the crisscross pattern so you unload the head evenly. There's some schmoo in here.
So you're saying you unbolt it the same way you'd torque it?
Yeah, pretty much the same pattern that you torque it in. Just, I mean, it's good practice. It's like anything else. It's like doing lug nuts on your wheels. You just tend to do a star pattern.
Sure.
So we'll get this out of the way.
So now what's the plan for these heads once they're off?
Okay, so the plan is to basically do a old school valve job. I keep saying old school because literally the equipment that I have is from probably like the 60s and 70s, which was basically pilfered from a repair shop that I used to work at, and I'm still friends with the guys. So we'll do a little pan by the valve grinding machine. We're not going to do the valves right today. What we're going to do is basically take the heads apart, pull the valves out of it. I did the passenger side head already, and the valve guides for the exhaust were pretty loose. So I'm going to knurl them. The intakes seem really good, so I'm not going to knurl them to tighten them up, to tighten the clearance up. And we're also, when we put this back together, we're going to use the positive valve seals on the intakes and use the umbrella style on the exhaust. So the exhaust will still have the opportunity to get like more oil than the intakes will. So I'd rather have the intakes a little on the loose side. This is just based on common sense knowledge. I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm not an engine machinist by any means, but I've taken a few apart and put a few together that seem to run okay. So I did this whole same practice on my 383 that's in the Newport video. We did it on your
440.
440.
Yep.
I don't think we knurled the guides though. I don't remember doing that.
I think we did.
I think they were pretty decent because their mileage was low.
Yeah, so I guess that's the one thing I was going to say is this is like a 93,000 mile engine.
Yeah, it's got like 96, but
okay.
Who's counting, right?
Yeah. Now mine had around 40,000 on it when we took mine off. So I mean, it's even less than half. Right. So I mean, you'd expect things to be a little.
Gonna try and get it. There's really no good place to pry on it no more. We took everything apart. There we go. I did score some old NOS head gaskets.
You know, I was
for those who are intrigued.
I was just going to ask, I didn't want to put you on the spot, so I'm glad you brought it up, because I seen you had asked a question about where you get the old school gaskets.
And few people are like, why would you want old gaskets? And the only reason that I'm really looking into it is because we're not intending to do anything with the head surface on this. These heads are getting ripped down. We're doing the rough cut on the valve seats, sending them to a machine shop so they can basically hot tank them and get them clean, so we don't have to spend the next 4 hours cleaning heads for no reason. So that's what we're going to do, is just rip them down, send them out so they get cleaned. I don't think we're going to need to resurface them. We're going to have them checked. And if we do resurface them, usually only cut like 0.010 of an inch off the surface. So the original head gaskets, from what I read and everything I could find, are like 0.28 of an inch crush thickness on the gaskets, where like the Fel Pros are like 45 or something like that. They're pretty big. They're almost double. But if you're honestly like rebuilding, you're probably going to cut like 10 off the block, 10 off the heads. You have 20,000s you can make up. So you know, if you run a little thicker head gasket, that's fine, because the compression stays the same, all your valve train geometry stays the same. So the fact we're not doing any of that is why I wanted to stick with a really thin head gasket, and you can't find them. They just, I was reading up on, I guess Mr. Gasket had or has a like a graphite shim head gasket. I've read a lot of mixed reviews that they leak, so I don't know. I figured these things have been on here forever. Find an NOS set. So I found a guy in Idaho. I think he's got like 5 sets of NOS, like 71 small block Chrysler 318 part number head gaskets.
And you're saying it's the 318 in particular? Because we didn't have any trouble finding.
No, they make the big blocks new in the big shim gaskets, but the originals are like a metal. They got metal tracing, and it's a metal type of gasket, but it's got like graphite on each side. So that kind of seals everything, but they're really thin. When they're compressed, they're, like I said, about 28 thousandths of an inch. And everything else is at least 20 thousandths more than that. So I know it doesn't really equate to much, but this is a 8.8 to 1 compression motor by the book. And we just want to keep everything the same. It's really not.
Yeah.
This isn't any performance engine. This is literally a 2-barrel car we're just doing a valve job on. So we're not getting nuts.
Right.
So all you engine guys, get ready to cringe.
Oh yeah, there's the Alpine hammer. At least it's not
the claw hammer.
People hate the framing hammer.
Why? What's the hatred? It's a hammer. It's a hammer. What is it? It just it hammers things. I don't get the aggravation of it all.
Yeah, it's a hunk of
Crusty
metal
magnet
with wood.
Actually, we could probably just cheat those off of there. Okay, we are on cylinder 7 here. So going with cylinder 7 exhaust. Spring. Actually, this is actually a little too tight. We'll adjust that back out. So we were fighting with the other head. So what happens on the top ridge of the keepers tend to catch because the keepers are holding the valve, and that's a new seal I was putting in. So okay, so let me digress. We did a compression test on this engine. It came out pretty decent, and we had anywhere from, let's see, I think the lowest we had was like barely 130. That was like 126, 28, and then the highest we had was about 160. So we figured it was pretty good. We weren't gonna do this until I decided to start changing the valve seals. So I started putting air in cylinders to hold the valves up, and air was just leaking out of the exhaust on really the cylinders that were the lowest compression, but all of them did have a little bit of a leak. So I decided to pull the plug on that. See, like this one's hanging up a little bit. You could, well, you can't really see it, but there's a lot of slop in these exhausts. They're clicking back and forth pretty good. So get your trusty file. You just want to get rid of that little bit of a burr on the top of the valve. Again, not a performance engine. But the higher mileage tends to, you find that more. Just fall right out. Okay. So is this in the shot? You can see how not shiny the seats are. They're even, but they're not that good. There's no cracks, so that's always a good sign. So 7 exhaust. Put those in the right place. And we know we're going to knurl all the guides, so we're just going to go ahead and probably speed up this video and blow through all these valves. Let's do the intake though before we go nuts.
Now, because of the play, will you need to put, like, I don't remember exactly what the term is, but like a collar or like a sleeve in there?
A guide?
A guide, yeah.
No, what we're doing is we're going to knurl the guide, which is basically you almost basically thread it. Okay, so when you cut like a thread, it basically, there's nowhere for that metal to go every round you cut it, so it kind of shrinks the diameter of the hole. Okay. And then you ream it out. Okay. So then you ream it to fit the size of the valve. And we'll explain that in a minute. Let me pop that seal off of there. Now, you can't really hear it, but these intakes are a lot less sloppy than the exhausts, and they weren't fighting us really coming out. But so the seat surface on the intakes are pretty decent. So we'll get all those cleaned up, and then let's disassemble the whole head, and then we'll show you the seats. This is 1, 3, 5, and 7, and we had 130, 145, 150, and 135. So our outers were our worst for the compression test. They were the lowest cylinders. Yeah, that 130 on number 1 was pretty lousy. This was leaking really bad on the exhaust. So the number 1 exhaust was leaking really bad. We're going to clean these up, but I don't see any visible cracks, but this seat surface is like absolutely shot. It almost has a ridge to it too. So these were just pretty all worn out. I don't see anything epically bad on here. There's a few craters. The intake doesn't look spectacular either, but you can see just how not shiny those are. And compare it to the fact this cylinder head over here that I did yesterday, and like I said, we just did the rough cut on them. You can see how nice they cleaned up.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to do the rough cut on them, and then these are going to get cleaned. We're going to get them back. They're going to be checked for straightness, and then we'll take the fine stone, and I might just do it by hand if they get messed up from cleaning. They're really not that bad. So if we don't have to, we could get away with just a valve grinding compound when we lap the valves in, and they should be just fine. What I'm going to do is knurl the guides. Now, knurling, like I said, is kind of it's a cheat way to make a valve guide tight. It's not as good as putting in a guide, but this isn't a car, it's a daily driver anymore. Barely going to see, the top end of 3,000 a year.
It's going to be a driver,
right?
but just not an expensive
but a summertime driver. It's
exactly.
Exactly. It's not going to go out on crappy days, that kind of thing. Okay. So here's our knurler. This basically it just cuts almost like a thread. Okay, so it's not a tap, but it basically expands the metal going down the bore. There's also a gear reduction unit that reduces your drill speed 5 to 1. So we're going to put this in here with some oil and start going to town. So I need you to give me a couple pumps of oil here. Ready? There we go. Alright, so there's our knurler. Got all kinds of cast iron giblets on there, and like I said, I'm sure there's probably engine guys that are just cringing at this. But hey, they made this stuff back in the day. So
right.
It's legit.
Right. I mean, it's period correct.
Period correct for your home mechanic type operation,
right.
Which is exactly what we're doing here.
Well, I mean, I
So-
wonder, like, how many people would just take this apart, slap it back together,
Right.
or not even open it up to begin with? I don't know.
Right.
But,
Or even just like take it to a machine shop, let them cut guides in it for
right.
$8 a guide or whatever the hell it ends up being.
Yeah.
But you might have to help me support it,
Okay.
and then we'll show the video of the actual knurl down the bore. So exhaust right there. When we get close to the end, try to catch the bottom of that.
Of.
The knurler is going to fall out the bottom.
Okay. Do you need me to support this?
Yeah, just support that one. But give me some lube. All right, that's good. Put your hand under there. There it is. It frees up and then it goes down.
FYI, the knurler is warm, but it didn't burn my hand.
I'm glad your office paws aren't getting messed up today. You should have on a dual set of Harbor Freight rubber gloves, because I will not pitch that as an item to use. These are kind of terrible. I got them in a pinch, but I was really kind of disappointed. They are definitely not as durable. So you got to double bag them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when it's ugly, you got to double bag it. So now we're going to be on the opposite side.
Okay.
Give me some lube. Ready? That's good. Next, trusty sock rag. Good. So that's our knurl. So what it does is cut. You see the grooves cut in the guide? They go all the way down, and now it basically expanded it. So for example, if I take an exhaust valve, because we're doing the exhaust, I can't even get that down there because now the hole is effectively too small. Which is why you bust out your ream, and you got a reamer. So we're going to take this, put this in there, lube it up, and we're going to ream all the guides. Now this guide, the reamer ends up, let's see, this is 0.373 ream, so that's about the size of the valve stem themselves, give or take like 100 thousandths for oil clearance. So we'll just ream them.
All right.
Okay. You're going to have to grab the ream. Okay. Next one right there. Right here. Hold that head. It's really loose. That's a crappy job. Switch. I'm sure there would be some out there like, you gotta clean it after you can ram these things through, but not happening. Oh, that hit the bench. Next.
That one?
Gotta clean it off with your dirty rag. Boom. Okay. Done deal. Guides reamed. We are cylinder number 1. Let's take cylinder 1 exhaust valve. And now, well, this has got that little burr on the end of it. Let's go back from the bottom up then. let's blow some cleaner down there, which we are out of that. Well, let's see. Ooh. Ooh. She's tight with that lip there. There she is. Okay. So now it's a little grungy in there, but that thing's snug as a bug. It's got a little slop, but it's not too much. It's way tighter than it was before. So by the time we clean it, and I gouge the S out of that guide with the burr on the end of that valve, she'll be in tip-top shape.
So that noise,
That's that ridge right on the top of the valve.
Which didn't allow you to get it out.
Right, and I gotta file that a little bit more. We'll probably do that when I chuck it up and we wire wheel those or clean those all off. We'll have those deburred.
Right.
So they're not.
This is just like a test fit.
This is literally just a test fit, kind of rough it, get it in, and done deal. So we're gonna do the seats. Much different than your seats, right? You had yours cut on your 440.
I had my seats cut at my engine builders.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. This is not your engine builder.
Shout out to Kevin, my engine builder.
Hey, Kevin.
But yeah, so this is, again, like you're saying, like weekend warrior, you know.
Right. Not even that. Even this stuff is even getting harder to come by, but
yeah, I guess
old school stuff.
Yeah, that's probably more.
Stones. Basically got a stone that's roughly the size of the valve. These are like 158 valves, I think. No, 1.5. These are 1.5 exhausts. And inch and 3/4 inch, and I forget the intake. Anywho, exhaust valve. That's a stone. Use it on the other head. First, I'm going to cut. Or going to dress the stone. Every cut, you want to try and dress the stone to keep this thing as true as possible, because as you go, if you look at that surface, the 45 there, it becomes like concave from the abrasive wearing out. So you have this little tool here that's a stone dresser, and you basically chalk it up and zing it.
It's almost like the stone lathe. Really.
It is, really.
Yeah.
So put a little oil on there. This thing, the on-off, I hate it. It's either full nuts or...
Now, what is it? How old is that thing?
God, this is probably from the 70s. Blue Point. Yeah, I mean, it's old. Like I said, it was their dad's setup. I mean, he had this with the Van Doren machine over there. But we're gonna get it going. And you got to be careful to set this up so you don't just like blow the diamond tip off of it, because I did that and I had to buy a new one. Oop. So that cleaned it up. You saw the dust trail kind of, there's a little bit of a darkness in there, but that's from just the griminess of it. But you see the dust trail coming off of it was constant, so you know that you got a good clean cut. So exhaust, this one's set up for the intake, and I think I dressed this before we got going. So throw your guide in here into your valve guide, and that gives you this to then ride. And as you spin, it cuts the seat. So I like to just do it by hand a little bit, just to see how we're doing. And really, it's not going to take much. They're really not that bad. They're just old from age and sitting around. So this is what always freaks me out is this thing. So we're just going to do just a little touch. Like I said, this is a rough stone, and you can see, can you zoom in? You see it there? So I cut the seat nice, and got a little bit of a gouge in there. So we're just going to do the exhaust and then switch to the intakes. Dress the stone. Probably high speed this up, right? that's good for a first cut. So we're not probably gonna have to touch these up maybe later, maybe not. Depends on how the machine shop does with cleaning them, if they get affected by anything. So we did 2. We're gonna go on the dresser again and adjust our. More. Nice. With similar equipment, yeah, I'm calling that good. So, done. The first portion of your backyardy, homemade type of valve job.
Well, it's better than the way it came out.
Absolutely. So when she's clean, we'll next video we're just gonna do the valves. We'll throw them in the machine. We'll set up a machine, show you how that works. It's an old Van Dorn, which I think is very, very similar or same manufacturer to Black & Decker. That's a nice. Back in the day, it was a really a decent type of machine.
You just watched the video. You've seen what we did.
You tend to repeat a lot.
I do.
All the time.
I do.
Comment about this guy. He always repeats the same stuff we're talking about.
I'm not including
every
any of
clip.
this.
We're going like, oh, we're to say the same thing. We gotta not. This is this too much script?
Yeah,
this
it
is too scripted. So anyway, this is how we're doing it. So
yeah,
if you like it, that's cool. Comment, subscribe. We like the comments. I do find that interesting because people have their little opinions on everything, and it's interesting to see other people's point of view because not being on the other side of the camera, but this is what I've done for everything I've ever done, and it works. I mean, you got the Newport running. It's been 3 years now on that motor. Runs great.
Yeah, I think people appreciate what we're doing. I mean, you could always go bigger, right? I mean, there's really sky's the limit as far as any engine car project. You could always go bigger, but like
how much money you want to throw at it?
Exactly, but I think this is what most people would feel comfortable doing and would want to do, and you know, this is definitely not Ed's nicest car. So I mean, this is just something he wants to
No,
like,
this is
play
a driver.
around with,
This is a quick, we're not throwing a lot of money at it type thing. So,
all right, guys, see you later. You'll see the car, in another upcoming video, depending on how, various stages of completion.
Yeah, we're gonna assemble this motor. We're gonna give you tidbits like the valves in the head, maybe some reassembly once we get it closer. A lot of the parts and pieces were just kind of cleaned up and touched up paint-wise. We're not restoring it by any means. We're going to paint the whole block to make it match and look nice. But we're going to reassemble it onto the K-frame jig with the tranny. Control arms are all clean. They're getting new bushings. So a lot of that stuff's already been done. It's ready to go. We're just going to put it together. So we might pop in a video here and there of what certain component, like just for example, I know that power steering pump and power steering box are leaking. So maybe we'll throw a video on changing the seals on that real quick. Nothing spectacular.
Nothing fancy.
And then, as it gets assembled, it'll be on the jig. And then we'll do a video of us dropping the car back on it just so you can kind of see how putting it back in through the bottom is, I think, way easier on this if you're taking all this stuff apart. It's easier than individually pulling it apart and pulling the motor through the top and taking the hood off and all that junk.
Every engine pull on this channel has been through...
No, because we did everything's been through the top.
Through the top. What about the truck?
That was a debacle. That was on a lift with I didn't have a cherry picker here and all that junk. So that was
an outlier.
Yeah, no.
But any real series we've done, the engine has gone through the hood. So
yeah.
All right.
Check it out.
See you later.